that was a song written for you guys. I'll play the words for you later, but written by AI and sung by AI. It wasn't me. All right, so thank you very much, Anura, for the opportunity, and thank you, everyone. I am recording this. A few people said they couldn't be here. I'm doing that. All right, so today I want to talk about AI, but I want to keep it fairly general. I want to give you some tools that I hope you can pop in your tool belt and make you more productive. All right, so the first thing, AI is not new. It was first coined in the 1950s, believe it or not, actually 1955. Let's go back. What is AI? Quite simply, it's a system attempting to do a human-like thing. So it's a very generic term, I know, but a spam filter is AI. Netflix has been using AI for years to make recommendations. You're going to this because you like that. What is new or relatively new is what we call generative AI. So that's AI that creates new content that doesn't exist. That is obviously words, it's images, it's documents. To give you an example, that image you will not find anywhere on the internet. It was generated by AI with some prompts. You would have heard potentially of something called Moore's Law. That was introduced when computer chips were first introduced. Obviously, the guy who coined it wasn't Roger Moore, it was something Moore. Certainly Moore was his first name. So at that point in time, what was happening is computer power was doubling roughly every 18 months. Today, we're far surpassed that. What's happening with the latest ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, DeepSeek, all of those, computer power is doubling roughly every 6 months. And everybody's trying to outpip the other one. Everybody wants to own AI. We'll cover that off a lot later. Obviously, Facebook are now in there as well. They're investing millions and millions, billions of dollars actually, 100 billion. Gemini and ChatGPT, there's obviously Copilot. There's a raft of them. There seems to be a bit of a play between ChatGPT and Gemini as to which is the best. Gemini version 3, which just came out a couple of weeks ago, people are saying has actually surpassed ChatGPT 5 at this point in time. Key thing is where we're at the moment, these large language learning models, as they call them, are currently at PhD level for most subjects. So they know more than the average human, unfortunately. How do we use AI? Obviously, from a productivity point of view, think faster emails, and I think everybody's probably doing that. Who's using AI for email today? Yep, most people. Just helping you to, you'll rough out an email, you run it through AI and you'll ask it to polish it up, make it sound a bit better. Note-taking, obviously, is another one. So getting an AI to attend meetings for you automatically, if it's a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, it's there taking notes. You can get it to produce a summary. Efficiency, clearer project planning. So you can get AI to actually easily develop a project plan for you with the right inputs, create checklists for boiler checks, all that sort of stuff. Creativity, AI gives you the ability to create things that never existed. For example, that song. Images. It could even be an app. So if I was an engineer, I would create, for example, an app where the team could go and ask frequently asked questions. So they could say, I don't know, how often do we need to check the boiler? How often do we need to do this? So if you've got a new team member starting, they can actually query that knowledge base. I think of AI as like a Swiss Army knife, and there are 4 ways in which to use it. I call it microtasking is emails, creating standard operating procedures, summarizing manuals, and I'll explain a little bit later how there's a tool that can actually do that quite well for you. This is one that I don't do enough myself, but using AI as a companion. So if you don't know how to do something, you can actually ask AI to coach you through that process. So you could say, I need to give a presentation to the hotel engineers about AI. I don't know where to start. What questions do you need to ask me so that we can actually start putting a plan together, believe it or not. So you're using AI as a companion or a coach, really, at the end of the day. You can delegate tasks to AI, get it to find you a list of suppliers. I went to Croatia in September. I asked AI to put together a list of hotel chains in that Adriatic region that had 10 hotels or more. I wanted their head office. I wanted where they were located. I wanted the website. I wanted room counts. I wanted the top 2 people within the company, including their email address, and put it all into an Excel table for me. And it did a pretty good job. So that's the sort of stuff. Give it the right prompts and it will come up with some pretty good information. Research that probably would have taken me 4 or 5 hours previously with Google searches, etc., it's doing in 3 or 4 minutes. Acting as a teammate, get it to record your meetings, as I said, have it summarize the actions, then it can act as an admin following up on those actions. One big shift that's currently happening now is we are moving from chatbots to agents. Has anybody heard of the term agentic AI? No? Effectively what it means is it's an agent that actually will take over a task for you. So the old way of doing things is, let's just say, and I'm going to run through this example, let's just say I wanted to go from Sydney to Bangkok. I go into Google, I Google flights, I'd get a whole bunch of links, I would go through the links, I would have to make a decision, and I would go and do the purchase. Now you can give that task to an agent and the agent does the work. Let me show you. So this is a real example. I'll quickly read the prompt. This is what I fed into chat. Can you help me book some flights and accommodation in Bangkok? I want to fly from Sydney to Bangkok, Sunday, 22nd of November next year. I'd like to leave in the morning. I want to depart. I didn't even say where I'm departing, but 28th November, which I think it's a Saturday. I actually spoke this into into Gemini or ChatGPT. I find that easier. I probably want to leave in the evening. I need accommodation in 22, out 28. There's my hotel language coming in. I'd like to stay near Queen Sirikit Convention Centre. I was polite. I said, please. Must be walking distance, one stop or should be MRT, not MTR. My budget's $1,500. It's probably a bit excessive, but if anybody knows, I spent $224 for 6 nights 2 weeks ago. It wasn't the best place in the world, but it was clean and it was 300 meters from Queen Sirikit Convention Centre. I said to it, economy flights, I only want something that's direct. I don't want to stop. If you need anything else, just let me know. So I fed that into chat. Chat went off and it basically started doing this on my screen. I can go away and do other stuff, but it is literally going through hundreds and hundreds of websites. After a couple of minutes, it came back and it gave me a summary here. I'll show you the summary. It gave me this summary and effectively said, all right, I've narrowed it down to 2 flights. There's a Thai Airways or a Qantas flight. And as far as accommodation goes, I'm suggesting one of these 3. It tells me how far they're away from the Queen Sirikit Convention Centre, tells me what it's going to cost me. And it actually, you can't see it on screen, but it recommended, I think the Wyndham Bangkok is probably best from a convenience budget point of view. And it said to me, do you want me to book them? So I basically said yes. Off it went, and it went to Thai Airways website. It tried to book, but they haven't actually released flights for that time slot yet. So it failed, which is probably good. It then went off to try and book on the Wyndham website, struggled, moved over to booking.com, actually went and reserved the room, and then it put a message up for me saying, now it's your turn, put in your credit card details and click confirm, and we're done. So at that point, I just said to it, I'm just going to hold off. And it came back and it said, no problems, I'm here, just let me know when you're ready. So that was done. The whole process for chat to do that was 7 minutes. Pretty impressive, I think. And it can book it. It stops. I need to put in my credit card. Like, it's not remembering my credit card. In future, you can do it now with booking.com. You could put your credit card in, it would actually complete the process. So booking.com has a link between ChatGPT and the booking.com app that you can connect the 2 together, and then it understands who you are and everything like that. I was using the premium account. Gemini can pretty much do the same. It'll do all the same research. It just won't get to the book of booking. Yeah. But from a research point of view, it's going to come up with the same stuff, and I just need to go ahead and do it. And I know, to be honest, when I wasn't smart, when I did it this year, because I literally was at No Vacancy Bangkok 3 weeks ago, whatever it is now, I did it via Google. And I probably spent an hour and a half on a Sunday afternoon trying to work out the best flight, going from one airline site to the next, going from Webjet to crazy. This is going to do it for you. I find one of the biggest mistakes I make, and I think one of the biggest mistakes everybody makes, is lack of context. So if you've ever used chat and you thought that was pretty hopeless, it's given me really like a vague response, it's not really chat. It's what you put into chat at the end of the day. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away, and that is from today, and that is the better you get at prompting, prompt engineering as they call it, the better responses you're going to get out of any AI. It doesn't matter whether it's chat, whether it's Gemini, whether it's Claude, whether it's Copilot, they're pretty much all the same at the end of the day. So just to give you an example, if I said to chat, hey, help me reduce energy, it's going to come back and say, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. And you're going to say, great, like really simple stuff. I know that. But if you want it to be intelligent, tell it. I use the AIM framework. So tell it who you want it to pretend to be. So I want you to pretend to be a world-class energy efficient consultant. Now, I used chat to actually work out what title that person would be, right? I didn't know who is the best at energy and at sustainability, blah, blah. I chose that one. So act as a world-class energy consultant. Provide it with some examples of your current build. You can do that as attachments. You can tell it, obviously, what your occupancy is, number of rooms, the fact that you've actually got a laundry on site, you've got electricity, you've got gas, you've et cetera, and then basically tell it what you want it to do. Give it your targets. So, we're looking to reduce our current energy consumption by 5%, and say, give me 10 specific improvement ideas. You will get a much better response than if you just say, help me reduce energy. Does that make sense? Cool. I just want to touch on AI in hotels today. From a guest point of view, I was just telling Andy that there's a voice AI solution that's installed at a hotel in Melbourne. It answers all calls. So instead of the IVR, when a guest from outside or from a room rings into the hotel, this AI answers, welcome to such and such hotel. How can I help you? It knows whether it's an outside a call or an internal call. If the caller from outside says, can I book a restaurant? It basically diverts them to the restaurant, just like the IVR would, but better than the guest saying, press 2 for restaurant. If they want to make a reservation, it does the same thing. From an external point of view, if the guest has just got a question like, do you have car parking on site? What time is check-in? Do you have a gym? The AI can handle all of those questions. Based on a couple of companies I've been working with for the last 4 or 5 years, somewhere between 60 to 70% of those frequently asked questions can be handled by the AI. No problems at all. Obviously, you've got to tell the AI, and that's the most important thing about AI is great, but it needs data. Otherwise it starts making stuff up, and we'll talk about that later. If a guest is calling from the room and the guest says, can I have some towels? Great. In this particular hotel, they're using Hub OS as their dispatch system. The request goes directly into Hub. I saw it today. Within 14 seconds, somebody's got it on their phone. Literally, this room wants 2 extra towels. They start the process and off they go. If the guest said that I'm having trouble with my TV, it would put in a maintenance request. From a back of house point of view, it was Anura that alerted me to this, and I did a little bit of research. Chillers now have AI capabilities, or there are chillers with AI capabilities. Obviously, there's a hardware component and a software component. And as Andy said last year in his presentation, there's a lot of interfacing. It's not just magic. The chiller can't just determine occupancy, even based on IoT. It's got to have a connection either with the PMS, the BMS, or the GRMS. So there's still work to be done But the idea behind having AI in the chiller is that via feedback from the IoT sensors in the room, via the GRMS to the BMS to the chiller, it can obviously determine what level of cold water and stuff like that it's going to be pitched at based on occupancy. The other thing that those sensors can do, they can determine or predict failure before it happens. So based on number of cycles that are being run and stuff like that. As I mentioned before, I think one of the other important things to keep in mind with AI is that data is imperative. I know a lot of hotels are like, I'm just going to get, let me give you an example outside hotels. A friend of mine actually was approached by an airline and they said, we want you to help us use AI to determine which meals passengers are going to want. And he said, have you got the data? And I said, yeah, we got the data. And he said, okay, so you know who wanted chicken but ended up with fish because you ran out of chicken. And they're like, no. And he said, if you feed the data that you've got into AI, it's going to give you the exact response. What you need to start capturing is the number of people who didn't get the meal that they wanted. All right. So that's just an example when you're thinking about AI, that you've got to have the data that you can feed into it. Okay. So the elephant in the room, will I lose my job? I think engineers are safe because engineers, a lot of their job is physical. AI is great at linear work, so coding, emails, stuff that's very sequential. It's terrible at messy work. And I think that's engineers, I think as Robert said, they've got so much on their plate and it varies from, there are reports, there's sustainability, but there's also issues that just happen, right? AI will never be able to use gaffer tape or tape and a spanner to fix a leak. So your job is safe. If you listen to the song carefully though, one of the things that I think is that engineers who use AI for admin will replace engineers who don't. And I think that's in any job. I've got friends that are plumbers and they're like, plumbing will never be impacted by AI. It will, because if you've got a plumber who actually streamlines his business, the administration side, the invoicing, the dispatching of drivers and stuff like that, using AI, he will actually be more successful than someone who doesn't. What does the future look like? So there's a term called artificial general intelligence. And we're in the AI community, that's what we're working towards. So we will arrive there when AI is capable of human level logic, reasoning, problem solving. It will understand emotion. It will be able to learn autonomously and it will be creative. At the moment, it's not. We feed data in and data comes back out. AI is nowhere. It is not at the point of that level. But if you listen to people like Sam Altman, the founder of ChatGPT, he's saying that maybe within the next 3 to 5 years, we will be at the point where AI itself will actually be able to learn things. I can't remember which company it is, but one of them is looking to remove all the knowledge that AI has and then asking it to try and come up with a theory of relativity, but taking away the fact that it knows that already. So they're running tests. There's also huge investments being made. I mentioned that Google's dominated search for many years. ChatGPT have announced that they're coming up with a search engine in competition to Google. I'm not sure if Sergey Brin was one of the founders of Google. For the last 15 years, he's been retired and he's been enjoying his retirement on a yacht. He's come back into the business full time. He wants to make sure that Google wins the AI war. And it is pretty much a war. Facebook are investing $100 billion in infrastructure. I don't know if you've seen it, but they're building this thing called the Hyperion Data Center in Louisiana. They showed a picture of it they showed it on New York to try and signify the size. If it was put onto New York, apparently it's half the size of New York itself. So pretty impressive. There's also a talent war going on. So once again, Facebook or Meta literally lured an Apple AI expert across with a $200 million pay offer. And he took it. It's not bad, right? So these guys getting paid more than Ronaldo. From a hardware point of view, Does anybody know Johnny Ive? So Johnny was the head designer for Apple. He's responsible for the iMac, the iPhone, the iWatch, all of those things. He started his own company a couple of years ago. His company was just bought for $6 billion by OpenAI. And together they are working on wearable technology. This is what AI thinks it looks like. This image was generated by AI. We don't know what they're going to look like, but they will be something that doesn't have a screen. It will be something you wear. It might be a necklace. It might be a brooch. There are already some products out there at the moment. There's a product called Limitless, which does a similar thing. And I know some people who've got one. It's literally constantly listening to everything that's going on. And if you say great things, it's great. It's like, at the end of the day, you can obviously summarize if you said some really good stuff and then pass that on to your team or whatever. Those devices are going to be coming out in 2027. And I think it's going to change. It's going to be a big leap forward. Obviously, we're going to see a lot more AI come into the hotel industry as well. Traditionally, as I don't need to tell you guys, we're probably 5 to 10 years behind everyone else. We're just starting to introduce kiosks when the airline industry have actually done kiosks and they're actually now starting to remove them. We're starting to put them in. But yeah, we're definitely going to see more AI. There's already AI now that is reading guest reviews and drafting replies. Those replies are getting good enough that in the future, you literally just tell the AI, send it. Don't worry about me actually vetting it. You're pretty well trained, just send it. So every product that you pick up these days has got AI built in it. Even we went out to LG, there was a washing machine that have AI in it. Okay, so what is it actually doing? Is it determining if it's colors or whites? Unfortunately, it was only looking at the size, I believe, of the load and then determining how long it should wash for. But it's going to be interesting. But what I want to make sure is obviously that you're prepared for it. So I'm going to give you some homework. I'm suggesting spend 15 minutes a day just using AI. It doesn't matter which one. If you're Office 365 and you've got Copilot, use that. Gemini, ChatGPT, doesn't matter. Just focus on learning that one. They all operate in the same way. I would encourage you to use voice mode. So if you've used chat, you can literally, particularly on your phone, you chat all the time. I'd be doing the washing. I was watching a show on Under the Banner of Heaven. I don't know if he's watched it on Netflix about the Mormons. I didn't really know much about the Mormon religion. So Chat and I are having a really good chat about Mormon religion, and I became educated whilst hanging out the washing. The reason I suggest using voice comes down to this context and prompting. When we write an email, we tend to be fairly succinct, right? Hi, Anura, hope you're well. Can we catch up tomorrow? If I called Anura, we'd have a much lengthier conversation. It's the same. So when you're talking to chat, it's like, chat, like my prompt for the flight. If I did that when I was typing, I'd just say, help me book some flights, Sydney to Bangkok, in this date, out that date, budget this much. Whereas because I was speaking it, I actually gave it more context, which is useful at the end of the day. Even just, a practical example, you could get on chat and it might be Nura saying, hey, can you draft an email to the team? They need to have their holiday request forms in by this Friday by 5 p.m. Otherwise, there will be no leave. Obviously, don't say it like that. Make it sound a little bit better, please. Wish them a happy Christmas, and it will draft something beautifully for you. Delegate a task to AI. Get it to interview you. In doing my research, and I haven't done it myself, but this lady used to actually work for Amazon as their lead AI technician. She was actually on Etsy or something, looking to buy something for a friend. She needed some advice, so she actually got chat. I don't know if you know this now, but when you go into chat, you can literally hold up your camera and you can say, chat, what am I looking at? And chat will tell you, it looks like you're in the 16th chapel. And it's, oh, great, tell me about this. So I could literally hold up and it'd probably be able to identify we're here at the Shangri-La. Probably wouldn't know who you guys are. But she got chat to have a look at this handbag and she said, my friend, which one of these do you think she would like? And she's just using chat as that sounding board to help her make a purchase of a gift. Crazy, but that's the way it is. This image was generated by AI, as all the images were. I want to mention this one particular because there's a new feature within Gemini called Nano Banana, stupid name. but absolutely fantastic tool. I took a photo of me standing under the no vacancy sign last year. I wasn't even on the side angle. I was front on. And I said, can you change this? I want you to show an image of me giving a gift to a hotel engineer. And it came up with that. And then I said, great, can we change the words from no vacancy Sydney to Australian Institute of Hotel Engineering? And it does that. I could then say, can you turn that into a 2-minute video of us exchanging gifts and shaking hands? And it will do it. Amazing. A couple of tools. If you're not using a note taker at the moment for Teams calls and stuff like that, everybody is. I attend meetings now and there's 2 people and there's 3 note takers. Fathom is completely free. It creates a really good summary with action points at the end. It's a good product. Notebook LM is a really good tool. I know Ton uses it. I want to explain it because I think it's a Google product, but you've heard that Google can make stuff up, right? Or sorry, chat. All of them can actually make stuff up. They were designed to please you, right? They never want to say no. So if they don't really know the answer, then often they'll actually make something up for you. The way Notebook LM works is you upload documents into it. You can upload up to 50 documents. My daughter is studying nursing, so she loads nursing stuff into it. And then she can say to it, can you create me some study notes? Can you create me some study cards? Can you actually create a podcast? And this is what I know Ton's used it for creating podcasts. Can you create a podcast with this content, which I can then listen to in the car? It's brilliant. You could upload a manual on your chiller and then you could say, hey, could you create a weekly, monthly and quarterly checklist? It would read through the 400 pages and come up with that for you. You can then query the information that's in the 400 pages as well. What does it say about, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but valve life cycle or something like that? If it's in the manual, it will find it. What's good about it is it's only look at the information you provided, right? So it's contained. So it's not making stuff up. The other product, I just mention it only because it's changed my life. A mentor of mine told me he was using it and he said, it's making me 30% more productive. And I scoffed and I said, it's rubbish. How can that work? I used the free product. With a free version, you get 2,000 words. By Tuesday morning, I'd gone through my 2,000 words. And then I just started paying for it. It is a tool, voice to text, but works across everything. Email, WhatsApp. We use Slack internally for communication. Google Docs, the CRM. So if I have a call with Andy and we talk about such and I want to make a note in the CRM, on my machine, I hold control on Windows and say, Andy and I just had to chat about this. We agreed this, we did that. Done, save. Like so much more productive. I've been playing with voice to text tools for 20 plus years, and this is the best product I've ever come across. Okay, so you probably guessed I've been using AI for a little while. Myself and the team use a lot of tools. The presentation outline was generated by AI. So full confession, I prompted, I said, I need to talk to the hotel engineers. I need a 20-minute presentation. We've got varying levels of skill. We've got people that are the younger are probably using it. We've got people that are more mature and probably not using it. What I do want to get across is that AI can make you more productive. It came up with the 10 slides for me. It then said, do you want me to generate the slides? I said, have a go. Did an absolute shit job. So AI is not perfect. I then said to my marketing assistant, here's the slides that it's come up with. Can you actually generate the images and actually make it look good? So as I said, all the images were generated by AI using ChatGPT or Nano Banana. That is an image of me, is what AI thinks I look like if I was a robot. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to a LinkedIn profile if we're not connected already. Love to connect. It will have the link for Whisper. It has a link for a podcast we do called 5-Star Weekly Briefing. Comes out every Friday. It is a 10 to 15 minute podcast on what has happened in the hotel industry this week. The only way we can generate it is through AI. So literally one person on my team, when we get the emails and we look at LinkedIn every day, we literally put that into a Google Doc. We throw it into Notebook LM on a Friday afternoon and say, generate a podcast. and it does. And then we just pop it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And we promote it. If you go to LinkedIn on Friday afternoon, you'll see the link there. We mentioned people who have moved positions within industry that week. We make announcements like IHG just signed a deal with blah, blah, blah for the new hotel that's opening in 2027. So all that sort of stuff that we cover off. And then there's another one called 5-Star Conversations, which is interviews that I do, a real interview with people. And so people like Matt Tripolini, the MD for IHG, Adrian Williams, the COO for Accor, Jason Newell, Senior Vice President for this region for Marriott, have all been on that podcast. We do use AI, obviously, in the editing process to take out ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff. And we use AI to generate all the little snippets that you actually see on LinkedIn, which we promote 10 snippets within the month.
Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.